What's up? My name's Glueboy. Welcome back to the series where I go over Warhammer factions and tell you all about them. This one, a pretty highly recommended one, a pretty popular faction too. We're going to be talking about the Emperor's Children.
My name is Sprite Pepsi, and I'm abstinence until I die!
So, the Emperor's Children are the third legion of the Space Marines. Their story is the journey of striving for perfection above all, and then a really, really sharp decline, like a straight up collapse. As the Emperor's Children nowadays are one of the major Chaos Space Marine armies, as which they're all devoted to the Chaos God Slaanesh. Slaanesh being the Chaos God of hedonism, excess, drugs, sex, all that stuff. But way back in the beginning, when the Space Marines were being made, the Emperor's Children got their start with Old Terran royalty, as after Big E went over and reconquered all of Terra, a lot of the old noble houses kind of gifted their children to the Emperor as penance, which then he created into his Space Marines that all had this sense of nobility, hyper-discipline, and honor. And as they all went out for the Great Crusade, rediscovering all the Primarchs, something I mentioned back in the Fabius Bile video, they got hit with the Blight, good old space super cancer. And this infected all the gene seed stocks and all of the gene seeds currently being used by said Space Marines. And, well, it kind of killed everybody, except Fabius. You know, he's the exception. All hope was lost until they found Fulgrim. And Fulgrim, I'm not going to get entirely into his whole deal, as he's a pretty intricate character from everything I've read and everything I've heard. So he's going to get his own video in the future. Don't worry about it. Fulgrim brought hope back to the Legion, as currently they had about 200 members. That is stupid low. In a universe where everything scales into millions and billions, 200's nothing. So, with the Emperor's Children getting all of their numbers back, they attached themselves to the Luna Wolves, led by good old Horus, later to be called the Sons of Horus. And it was here that Fulgrim and Horus got a pretty good friendship. They had a really good rapport with each other, which is something that would bite Fulgrim in the ass way later. But the whole Great Crusade went on as usual. The old heresy started kicking its way in. But during all of this, the Emperor's Children were tasked to go wipe out this terrible Xenos threat known as the Lair, or the Lear. The Lair were a bunch of Slaanesh-worshipping snake people. And as such, they were kind of, bad. As the Emperor's Children went in on this crusade, Fulgrim went to one of the temples and found this cool sword. Oh, this really cool sword. He grabbed it, wielded it, and turns out it had a demon inside of it. Started whispering all these chaosy things into Fulgrim's ear. And chaos being horribly corrupting, as all things, he started kind of getting turned. Which, during the start of the whole heresy deal, Horus was pretty down for, telling him, hey, yeah, you should lean into that blade. Lean into what it's telling you. Till eventually he got possessed, and there's a whole other bag of worms there. A large thing with the Emperor's Children is striving for perfection. The Primarch believes just in perfection, and that's what he strives to be, and that's what he wants his Legion to be. As such, as well, with, having 200 members and having to regain their strength, they got really good at the art of perfect tactics, executed perfectly, for minimum casualties. And they got very good at this. And as well, with their heritage, they already had this strong sense of pride and discipline and extreme loyalty. However, this culture started to kind of turn, and a lot of other Space Marines noticed this about the Emperor's Children. This chapter culture started to become egotistical in nature, very prideful. As now, the Emperor's Children viewed, say for example, another Space Marine Legion got an award for something big. The Emperor's Children would be like, I didn't get it for how good I am? That's an insult towards me and my people. Or they get an award for something they did really well, and they're like, this just proves that I'm better than everybody else. It started to degrade, and this is really where, chaos started getting its hooks in, as when Fulgrim kind of turned traitor and took a lot of his Legion with him, they were pretty down for it. Slaanesh really, really reveres the idea of taking pride and pleasure in inflicting pain or really inflicting a lot of these horrible emotions. And so the Emperor's Children descended into chaos. And there's a lot of stuff that happens that I can't get into. I think the Emperor's Children are one of the most detailed chaos factions during the Horus Heresy, and there's a whole lot. One day I will talk about that stuff. Now, with the Emperor's Children fully into chaos and all of that good shit, they really started just causing problems. And then during the Siege of Terra, Fulgrim and his men couldn't get past Rogel Dorn's defenses at the Imperial Palace. So Fulgrim decided, fuck this, I'm gonna go fight something that's easier. So he turned tail and went to massacre all the citizens of Terra. Him and his legion just killing everyone they could find for the fun of it. Because now, causing pain or being hurt was real good. They started getting off on it. They're a lot of sick fucks, the Emperor's Children, to be completely honest. But once Horus got, killed and all the Chaos Legion started running away, they ran right into the warp. Fulgrim goes to his secret pleasure planet, where he's just a giant snake demon man, taking a lot of drugs and having a lot of sex, and having a great time, while the Emperor's Children are running about being major trolls. That's kind of their entire personality. I mean, they're fully chaos, and they still call themselves the Emperor's Children. Their war cry is still for the Emperor. They do this purely because they think it's funny. Even more, I talked about this as well in the Fabius Bile video, they straight up stole the corpse of Horus from the Sons of Horus. They fought them, stole his body, ran away, brought it to Fabius Bile. I'm convinced because they thought it would be funny. That's kind of what they do. They go around just causing mischief and mayhem, doing unspeakable, horrible things to the universe because it brings them pleasure. And I guess that's really one of the interesting things about the Emperor's Children is they are the story of this great, great army brought down. They fully gave into their vices and addictions and just kind of went wild. And there's a lot of really good symbolism and metaphor stuff in the Emperor's Children books and all that, which I'm currently working on. I'm reading through Fulgrim right now. It's the next bit of the Horus Heresy I'm working through. Pretty good from what I've read so far. Granted, that's been 2 chapters, so I don't know. I've heard it's really good. But that's enough about lore. We're gonna go right to the characters.
You lose to me in the game of sword fight. I get a really, really, really important chance.
First up on our list of characters is a delightfully depraved fuck known as Lucius the Eternal. Just taking a peek at this guy, yeah, you can tell he's horrible. Lucius was one of the best swordsmen, just really probably of all the Space Marines, very least in the Emperor's Children. Man was untouchable. They held a lot of gladiatorial duels in between missions and all that in their flagship, and dude was on top. And he stayed that way, and he still is, kinda. During the whole Horus Heresy, and when the Emperor's Children fell to Slaanesh, he went kind of right along with it, fighting just as well, doing a lot of great things for the Emperor's Children, until he met his end by a Raven Guard character known as Nikona Sharokin. I hope I got that right. Raven Guard names are stupid. Anyways, he was killed, and eventually, Sharokin started noticing some changes. His hair started falling out. These facial scars that Lucius had started to almost emerge from inside of him, until eventually, and very painfully, Nikona was replaced by Lucius. He was back. And that is because, as the name implies, Lucius is eternal. When he died, Slaanesh was like, I'm not gonna let my best champion die. No, he's doing really well. Bring him back. So, he is a fun little curve. When you fight Lucius, there are 2 outcomes. You die quickly, because he kills you in a duel. Or you kill him. Congratulations. Rejoice. But don't actually do that, because if you take even the slightest amount of pleasure at your handiwork, that means you will become Lucius horribly and painfully. That is the curse. Slaanesh really reveres taking pleasure at that kind of thing. So by doing that, he's going to come out and kill you horribly. And nowadays, he's kind of just roving around with his own little war band, causing horrible mischief and horrible, horrible things. And, he rightly knows he's untouchable. He just kills or dies, then comes back to his war band. They all rejoice, probably have another orgy, and then go out and do their whole thing again. all that good shit. Next up is the Ancient Rylanor. Wow, rejoice. The clickbait wasn't actually clickbait. I am talking about Rylanor here. I don't have enough to make an entire video on him because he's kind of just like, kind of a short story, and it's pretty good. Though Rylanor himself, I think, is more popularized by the song Rylanor's Last Stand by Stringstorm.
At last, Fulgrim, you have come.
Rylanor was a dreadnought who was entombed as a dreadnought because some Eldar kicked his ass. But he was there during the virus bombing of Istvan III. He fought on the side of the Loyalists that day. And Rylanor survived the virus bombing and the whole battle. But he was entombed in this cave in Istvan III, where he was entombed with another virus bomb. Thousands and thousands of years later, these 3,000 Sun characters and Fulgrim started picking up this message, this distress beacon. All it just was repeating was this message, the Ancient awaits. And, they followed it and discovered, hey, this is Istvan III. Holy shit. And they made their way and found Rylanor, horribly damaged, cannot move, and holding a fucking virus bomb. As, in that moment, Fulgrim, being all chaos souped up as he is, which that's very important, he is a demon Primarch at this point, and a demon Primarch of Slaanesh, who have this magical charisma to them. And Fulgrim started to, work his moves of hey, you're the last loyal Emperor's children. Why don't you join the rest of your brothers? Join me in the side of chaos. And Rylanor said no. A feat of ridiculous will. And Rylanor gave a pretty kick-ass line. I am Rylanor of the Emperor's children, ancient of rights, venerable of the Palatine host, and proud servant of the Emperor of mankind, beloved by all. I reject you now, forever and for always. And he delivered this line with such sheer conviction that he actually redeemed one of the 1,000 Suns there, who are also another Chaos Legion. And in saying this, he detonated the virus bomb point blank into Fulgrim's face. And Fulgrim survived, because he's a fucking demon Primarch. He's not going to die by a nuking. Primarchs have survived that before. However, I do think he damaged something more than, Fulgrim's physical body. He damaged Fulgrim's pride. And that is a feat that I don't think any other character can really take from Fulgrim. Man is pride incarnate, and Rylanor here hurt it. I understand why he's a fan favorite character. He's a fucking badass. With all the characters out of the way, we're gonna go right into the rules.
It's time to kick gum and chew ass.
So, I don't think there's that much to talk about Emperor's Children rule-wise as some other legions or factions I could talk about. As right now, they're kind of just mid. As of all of the Chaos Legions, they're not the greatest. And personally, I can kind of see why. As they don't have anything too crazy carrying them above the other ones. Nothing that's reaching the peaks of Black Legion or Creations of Bile. As their Legion trait is alright, I don't think it synergizes that well with a lot of things. There's one little synergy I found that people are running that I would recommend, but we'll get to that. Other than that, they have a secondary that I wouldn't call anything too crazy, as unlike the Creations of Bile one, where it's a secondary that really gives you points for playing the game. Instead, this one kind of runs as a snowball, a secondary, as if you're really scoring this objective, you're already winning. So all you're doing is making the gap wider. You're not actually, making the gap. If that makes any sense. I don't think it's phenomenal. It's pretty good. It's fine, but not anything amazing. Though if you're running Emperor's Children, I think you're going to be really running melee heavy armies, as they have a few really good stratagems that promote melee. A few of these I think you can just pop whenever you can, really. As well, a lot of the lists I've seen for tournament stuff is melee heavy lists. But unlike the Creations Bile, for this one, I would actually kind of recommend you run Lucius. He's not going to be your warlord though, because Abaddon's going to be your warlord, because you're playing a Chaos Marine list. If you want to compete competitively, you're bringing Abaddon. But Lucius is pretty good. I do think his stat line's solid. He's a very killy model, as he rightly should be. For one thing I would recommend bringing, and it's another recommendation I gave for Black Legion, you're going to want to run a lot of Terminators, as you have a fun little rule for your Legion trait of ignoring all modifiers to your ballistic or your weapon skill. So bring Terminators, slap the Mark of Slaanesh on them so they're always in the fight first bracket, and give them weapons that give them -1 to hit. You ignore that, you have a lot of like heavy hitting, attacking first, just Terminators. Really good. That's another consistent thing I see in tournament lists. I would recommend that. If you're wanting to run any Chaos list, I recommend just buying like a few boxes of Terminators, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, that's about it. Emperor's Children, pretty cool. I can see why a lot of people like them. I still don't think they're my favorite Chaos army, and Fulgrim I don't think is still like my favorite Primarch, which that might change the more I read Fulgrim and some of his own books. But anyways, that's about it. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. See ya.